On the news, Police Service Commission suspends Abba Kyari's men over drug deal saga. Nigeria's economy records growth of 3.4% in fourth quarter of 2021. And France President Emmanuel Macron announces withdrawal of French troops from Mali. We're glad to have you join us in News Now. I am Folashade Ogurinde. The Police Service Commission, PSC, has suspended an Assistant Commissioner of Police, Sunday Ubwa, and Assistant Superintendent of Police, James Bauer, who both worked under the embattled Abba Kyari in the intelligence response team of the Nigeria Police Force. This was contained in a statement issued on Thursday by the head of press and public relations of the PSC, Ikechukwu Ani. The PSC noted that the move is in line with the public service rules and that the suspension, which took effect from Monday, February 14, 2022, will stand until the outcome of the investigation into the allegations leveled against them. The Commission also maintained that Kyari was in custody, remained suspended until investigations into the matter are completed. Before now, Kyari was declared wanted and arrested by the Nigeria Drug Law Enforcement Agency because of his links with an international drug cartel. The move was the latest in a series of allegations against the embattled officer. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Umar Farouk, says it is elitist to assume that the 5,000 Naira monthly national cash transfer to vulnerable households is insignificant. The minister made the statement on Thursday during a briefing with State House correspondents when she was asked about the relevance of the initiative to the federal government's plan to save 100 million Nigerians from extreme poverty. She added that the intervention may not be fitting for some classes of Nigerians, but it makes a difference in the lives of poor Nigerians.
To the 100 million Nigerians that are going to be lifted out of poverty, according to Mr. President's vision, it cuts across all MDA's efforts. And for us in our ministry, as being the lead ministry in alleviating poverty, the conditional cash transfer that will give 5,000 Naira to poor and vulnerable in communities goes a long way in lifting them out of the status they were in before. You can see people have even saved, to provide a vehicle that will support them in child delivery. So this, I can say, we are supporting 1.6 million individuals. And these individuals, if you multiply the average number of a household, which is 5 to 6, you're supporting about 15 million or thereabout, more than 15 million individuals. So these people are being supported. And even in the Empower program that we are supporting now, 1 million of them, yes, that can also be added as a number of people that have been lifted out of poverty.
Due to the lingering fuel crisis, the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited, Mele Kyari, has been invited by the House of Representatives to answer questions surrounding the importation of adulterated fuel into the country. Kyari was stood before an ad hoc committee of the House of Representatives, assured that the current fuel scarcity will be over before the end of February. A correspondent, Mary Kanu, now reports.
The Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Mele Kyari, is at this meeting with the House of Representatives Committee on Petroleum Resources downstream to explain why excess methanol was mixed with Nigeria's batch of imported petrol. 2 weeks ago, millions of liters of adulterated petrol had been imported into the country, causing a major scarcity when the bad petrol was recalled. Members of the Green Chamber highlight how bad the situation is. They also want to know what the NNPC boss is doing to prevent a future occurrence. Lawmakers quiz Kyari on why the contaminated fuel was not detected prior to its importation into the country, saying the NNPC's inaptitude has added to the country's woes.
Even though methanol is a regular additive in petrol, but it is usually blended to acceptable quantity. The recent supply are in excess of this additive, of which it's resulted in consequences is injurious to our fragile economy and the generality of our citizens.
Despite Nigeria's daily output of 2 million barrels of crude oil per day, the GMD of NNPC Limited says the company lacks the facility to detect adulterated fuel before it's imported into the country. He added that imports by suppliers not only carried out in good faith, but that the petrol imported meets Nigeria's specification. But the committee is not convinced. They say claim of ignorance is not an excuse for Nigeria's current petrol crisis. They are also worried that if proper investigations are not carried out, more incidents like this could occur. Adjourning the investigations, the committee says it would re-invite the GMD after speaking with the 4 major marketers indicted for importing adulterated fuel into the country, just as Kyari gave assurances that over 2.1 billion litres of methanol-free petrol will be made available in the country by the end of February. Mary Kanu, TV360, Nigeria.
Rising from its weekly virtual meeting on Wednesday, the Federal Executive Council (FEC) has approved 4.96 billion naira printing contracts for the National Examination Council (NECO). The Minister of Education, Adamu, who made the disclosure during the meeting presided over by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, disclosed that the Council approved the contract that would enable NECO print materials that are to be used for Senior School Certificate Examination (SSCE). He also added that the beneficiaries are 9 contractors and the amount will be for printing of sensitive, non-sensitive equipment and other ancillary equipment for the examination.
The memo we presented from Education is a printing contract by NECO for the Senior School Certificate Examination. And the beneficiaries are 9 contractors, and the amount is 4,965,986,573 naira 89 kobo, and it will be completed in 8 weeks, and it is for the printing of sensitive, non-sensitive equipment and other ancillary equipment for the examination.
The Nigerian Senate has condemned the frequent bloody clash between bordering communities in Nigeria. Sponsor of the motion, Senator Abba Moro, lamented that the feeling of comradeship between the border communities of Eza in Ado local government area of Benue State and Effium in Haako local government area of Ebonyi State no longer exists. He said the development was caused by ceaseless communal clashes between the communities, which always lead to killings and destruction of valuables worth millions of naira. The senator thereafter urged the National Boundary Commission to define and delineate boundaries between the Ezaz and Effium's communities in order to prevent more clashes.
2 attacks were carried on the people of Eza, of Ado local government, in which 9 and 22 persons were killed and houses razed and properties destroyed. Mr. President, as I'm making this explanation, virtually all Eza people have deserted their ancestral home. And so, Mr. President, I want to ask again for Senate's intervention. 1, to produce security for our people.
I want to ask that the Defense Ministry can order, for the moment that the lives of the people are in danger, for a security base in Ikiri, the center, the epicenter of this current crisis. Because they come in their droves, attack and go back. And the people of Ezza are harmless, law-abiding citizens. Up to this moment, Mr. President, I also want to explain that as part of Senate's intervention, no relief and rehabilitation materials have been provided for the Ezza people. And up to this moment, like I said, our people are vulnerable to attack.
I agree with you that there is need to put more security agencies in those areas to ensure that the lives and property of our people are protected in Benue South and indeed across the country. So the security agencies that are concerned are called upon to look into the operational needs of the agencies to fortify that area and other areas where we have similar issues affecting our people.
Following the November 1st building collapse on Gerald Road, Ikoyi, the Lagos state government has announced plans to demolish the remaining skyscrapers left at the scene of the incident, which claimed the lives of over 40 people. According to a statement on Thursday, the government said the two structures will be demolished because they failed structural integrity test and will be pulled down through controlled demolition. The statement further revealed that the government has accepted 26 recommendations of the Toyin Ayinde-led panel that investigated the collapse and rejected 2 of the 28 recommendations made by the panel. Some government officials who were indicted will also face administrative disciplinary panels for their involvement in granting approval to the developer in 2019. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project (SERAP) has urged the federal government to deploy a holistic approach to tackle the menace of corruption in the Nigerian society. SERAP made this call in a town hall meeting in Lagos targeted at promoting citizens' participation in the fight against corruption in the health, education and water sectors. While bemoaning the rot in government agencies, they maintained that the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration needs to fashion out an holistic and feasible approach so that corruption can be a thing of the past in the society.
The state of health in Nigeria has also suffered immensely from corruption. And to take a deeper dive into the primary health care centers, that is meant to be the aspect that caters for all citizens, that is at the grassroots or. But because you would understand if there is corruption even at the tertiary level in the big cities, the impact will be more profoundly felt by the primary health care centers. And this is not because of lack of funds, as it were, in the annual budget year to year, or lack of a legal framework laws to cater for that. It is just non-adherence to those laws. So for instance, there is the National Health Act that provides that not less than 2% of the consolidated revenue fund should be set apart for the National Health Fund. And the fund is basically to be used to procure manpower, drugs, and other equipment for the national health, the primary health care centers.
It's endemic in us, and it boils down to the entire society. It's something that's deep-rooted, goes way back to the family. It starts from our homes. We are actually major problems, and if we don't, approach it from that angle, I think it will also be difficult for us to get solutions to it. Every one of us is involved, both the governed and the government, because the government is also from the society, and we're all involved in this. Until we begin to approach it holistically from that angle, we will still keep, being where we are.
Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TET Fund, has challenged polytechnics and colleges of education in the country to redouble their efforts in entrepreneurial and skills development in a bid to bridge the gap between industries and academia in Nigeria. The organization made this known during the inauguration of the Center of Excellence in Skills, Entrepreneurship and Sustainable Development in Yaba College of Technology, Lagos. Speaking during the event, Deputy Rector of the institution, Titilayo Rukabat, stressed the importance of skill acquisition and entrepreneurship for students, which she says will increase their chances of employability in the labor market. On his part, Director of the newly inaugurated center maintained that the center will help develop and enhance entrepreneurial skills of the students of the institution.
Very, very important TEDFund Center of Excellence in Skills, Entrepreneurship and Sustainable Development. Very, very important because it's a way by which we can bridge the gap between the industry and the academia. So that is to equip them so that they will be employable or they can stand on their own and set up their own company and be self-reliant so that they will not be roaming the streets. They can start up something and even employ people. Like we have had before now, we have a Techpreneurship. It's an annual event which was not able to take place last year because of COVID-19. And during that period, we normally have our students organize themselves into groups to develop an idea that is marketable, that they can set up, and through that in the next 5 or 10 years, they can employ up to 1,000 people. So we are already into it. But this center is just to help us to do more, so that our students will be self-reliant, we'll be able to train our students so that the gap between the industry and the academia will be bridged.
I agree with me that the youth that we have today, they are, bubbling with a lot of ideas. And then the center, fully funded by TEDFund, is giving them the leverage to be able to, put that idea up and then be able to get commercial value for it. And they become entrepreneur and they'll be able to employ others. And then the touch will continue like that.
I'll take a break here, but still to come, BioNTech to ship mobile COVID-19 vaccine labs to Africa. Details of the story and more right after this break. Welcome back. Now here is a recap of our top story tonight. The Police Service Commission, PSC, has suspended an Assistant Commissioner of Police, Sunday Ubwa, and Assistant Superintendent of Police, James Bauer, who both worked under the embattled Abba Kyari, an intelligence response team of the Nigeria Police Force. The PSC noted that the move is in line with the public service rules and that the suspension, which took effect from Monday, February the 14th of this year, will stand until the outcome of the investigation into the allegations leveled against them. But in case you missed any of our news bulletin or for more updates, do log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube and Google Plus at TV360 Nigeria. On Facebook, we are TV360 Online. Nigeria on Wednesday witnessed a decrease in the number of COVID-19 cases, with the Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC) reporting 13 infections across the country. The new confirmed cases have increased the country's infection toll to 254,137. Rivers State topped the log with 7 infections, while Nasarawa logged 4 cases. Adding Abia State and Taraba followed with 1 case each. With no death, the country's death toll now stands at 3,141. In an attempt to address vaccine inequality across the globe, German vaccine maker BioNTech has unveiled plans to establish manufacturing facilities in Africa that would boost the availability of much-needed medicines on the continent. In a statement issued on Thursday, the BioNTech Group said the first modular production units will be shipped to either Senegal or Rwanda in the second half of this year. The The statement also revealed that the group aims to start production of up to 15 million doses of vaccine a year within 12 months, pending approval from local regulators. We'll take another short break here and return with more stories and business. Do stay with us.
In the last 3 years, we have built a multi-purpose center, which is the envy of all in our constituency. And I can tell you that the people who are living there are already enjoying it.
Guy, do you think what this man just said is true? See, I seriously doubt. I'm sure it's one of those their silly lies.
Wait, do you know there's a way to find out if these things he's saying is true or not? This is the Construct app. It gives people like us a sure way to track implementation of constituency projects. It gives valid and verified information on location of projects, amounts allocated, amount funded, the level of job done, and even the profiles of concerned legislators. You and I can post directly on this app.
Are you serious?
This is the Go-To app if you want to know how our Commonwealth is being expanded by the government.
Wow. Let's even see if what this man said is true. Show me.
The Construct app is developed by Other People Nigeria with support from USAID and is available on both Google Play Store and Apple Store.
And it's true.
Of course, I told you.
Welcome back. Well, up next is business news and stock market review with Abisola Adebayo. Over to you, Bisola.
Thank you very much, Falashade. Welcome to Business News. Nigeria's gross domestic product, GDP, grew by 3.4% in 2021, the strongest since 2014. This was disclosed by the National Bureau of Statistics in its fourth quarter GDP report released on Thursday. According to the report, the non-oil economy grew by 4.73% in the quarter from a year earlier, bolstered by 3.58% growth in agriculture and 5% in services. The NBS added that the fourth quarter growth indicates a steady economic recovery, accounting for annual growth of 3.40% in 2021. According to the NBS, the figure is the first annual growth above 3% since 2015. But we'll take a break here and return with a review of the stock market. Nigerian stocks closed flat on Thursday, its second time this week, as the benchmark index eased by 0.01%, on track for a second straight week of loss. Oil and gas giant Seplat Energy set the bourse on a downward trajectory after traders placed a good number of its shares on sales, and only a few investors were actually willing to buy them. Specifically, the oil share index inched lower by 0.01% to close at 47,102 basis points, while the market capitalization declined by 4 billion naira at the close of today's trading. Moving on, ICT giant CWG PLC was the worst performing stock with a 12 kobo loss, and Champions Brewery trailed with a 20 kobo loss on its part. On the flip side, as our gainers list for today, RT Briscoe led the gainers chart, appreciating by 10%, and it was followed suit by Northern Nigeria Flour Mills PLC that also appreciated by 10%. Our market summary sees a total volume of 357 million units of shares valued at 6 billion naira, exchanging hands in 4,251 deals. This time yesterday, the market closed in the greens, but today it's a different story. Actually, these days, it's kind of hard to predict the move of investors because even the earnings season does not have it does not seem to have the much expected impact on the investors' decision, which is why we're seeing uncertainty on the Nigerian stocks rather. Moving on to the global market, uncertainty over the movement of Russian troops on Ukraine's border means European markets are back under pressure. Today's fall for the FTSE comes after the US said 7,000 extra personnel have arrived in recent days, disputing Russia's claim to have sent some troops back to their bases. The Dow Jones, in the same vein, also opened lower on Thursday as escalating tensions between the West and Russia surrounding Ukraine's unnerved investors, with some disappointing earnings also weighed on the mood. And it's the same story in Japan, when the Nikkei is closing negative with a 0.83% decline. That's all on stock market reports. Over to Folashade for the rest of the news.
Well, many thanks, Bisola. And now on the foreign scene, the current political crisis facing Mali continues to be a subject of discourse, especially as France has withdrawn its troops from the country after 9 years of military presence. Speaking in Brussels, French President Emmanuel Macron says the withdrawal is necessary as the EU and France no longer share the same diplomatic priorities with the government of Mali. Macron disclosed that most of the troops will now be redeployed to other countries within the Sahel, where the EU and its African fighters are fighting Al-Qaeda and Daesh terrorists. Speaking on the withdrawal of these foreign troops from Mali, security expert Kabiru Adamu says the move will subsequently affect the security architecture in Mali as well as the Sahel region in general, adding that the challenges faced by Mali must be tackled head-on by addressing the root causes such as disruption of democracy and poverty.
The French essentially has not helped in addressing the root causes of the insurgency. Let's remember that this has been ongoing for more than a decade. Yes, France was successful in pushing back the terrorists and the northern Tuaregs and in maintaining some form of stability in the region. But unfortunately, what we saw is a dispersal of these groups into other parts of Africa, including to an extent Nigeria here. And so when you ask the question whether Mali would be able to tackle the issue, it depends. If there is an attempt to address the root causes, and what are these root causes? Perception of non-governance, where a significant portion of the country feels excluded from governance. The Tuaregs have been complaining about that, and that led to their rebellion. Poverty is another, root cause. The climate change and the consequences of climate change and the inability of the government to put in place adaptive measures to manage these consequences of climate change. So unless all of these are done, starting with good governance and the various effects of good governance, unfortunately, I do not think so. No matter the types of military alliances or strategic alliances that Mali goes into, if those alliances are not geared at addressing the root causes of the crisis and the conflict in the country, then unfortunately, it won't be able to tackle the issues.
Well, up next is Entertainment Reporter News Now.
Funke Akindele's Omogeto the Saga has hit a new record. The film is reportedly now leading as the most watched title on Netflix Nigeria. The comedy sequel has stayed on the streamer's top 10 list as the longest running title for a Nollywood picture with a total of 98 days. Released in 2020, the comedy sequel crossed over 500 million, making it the highest grossing film in Nigerian box office. Following its successful cinema run, the film debuted on Netflix in 2021, also saw impressive reviews. Nigerian singer Davido's personal aide Israel DMW has been involved in a car accident. According to video reports from the scene of the accident, the aide to the music star's car was involved in a head-on collision with another car. Earlier this month, Davido gifted Israel DMW the Toyota Venza car, of which Israel was excited to receive the document from his boss. Meanwhile, it is not clear what exactly he does for the music star, but it can be described as one of his loyal staff. And that is all that we have for you in the entertainment segment of News Now.
Away from entertainment, now to sports. The federal government, through the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, has reimbursed the medical expenses of 2 athletes who got injured at the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games last summer. In fulfillment of this promise, both athletes Enoch Adegoke and Uche Ichekiri received a sum of 2,170,000 naira each from the Ministry of Sports, being the costs incurred during their treatment and rehabilitation. While reacting to the government's gesture, the athletes thanked the sports minister for fulfilling the promise made to them, saying the gesture will boost their preparedness for the new season. That's it on our news bulletin. Many thanks for watching. I am Folashade Ogorinde. Bye for now.